When people study knowledge and talk about knowledge, they quite often break it down into two classifications. Sometimes that's called tacit and explicit, or implicit and explicit, or know-how as opposed to know-that. These aren't exactly the same, they don't overlap perfectly, but generally these kind of terminologies apply. There's a kind of knowledge which is explicit. So for example, these bluebells over here, I know that they're called bluebells. I can say the word bluebell, I can explicate that as information, I can propose it. I might even know the Latin name for that flower. I don't, but I might. So that's explicit knowledge. And then there's implicit or tacit or know-how kind of knowledge. So for example, I might know how to juggle. And I do know how to juggle a little bit, not very well. So, and that's know-how. And that's implicit. And quite often the knowledge that's held implicitly, that's tacit, can't be explicated or can't easily be explicated. So whilst I know how to juggle, I would have trouble telling you exactly how I do it. I might be able to, but I might have trouble. Similarly, if I explicit knowledge, if I do know very well how to juggle, if I know how the muscles of the hand work and I know the parabola of the ball in flight and I've read all the manuals so I can describe the techniques one needs to deploy to be able to juggle, I might have all that explicit knowledge but not have the implicit, tacit know-how to be able to actually do it. So it can exist as one or t'other, yeah? And quite often they might even be in conflict. I might know how to do something, but when I come to describe how I do it, I get it all wrong. There's some interesting studies with pilots about that, expert pilots, who clearly knew how to fly an aeroplane very well indeed. But when they were asked how they do it, the descriptions they gave didn't correspond to how they actually did it. So their explications were very different to the intuitive, tacit, implied, implicit knowledge that they possessed and deployed. So these two kinds of knowledges. And I'm just wondering if the same thing, the same classification system between the tacit and the explicit, can be applied to something like belief. You know, whether I can believe something explicitly as opposed to believing it implicitly, tacitly. You know, what would it mean? How would that play itself out? You know, if I believe something explicitly, then I would be able to be explicit about it. I would be able to say what I believed. You know, I believed in certain things. If I believed that implicitly, then it would inform my actions. I would have the know-how to perform that belief in the same way that I have the know-how to perform juggling. And my actions would correspond to a belief, yeah? And these things might not necessarily be in lockstep. I might be able to explicate a belief, tell you what I believe, declare a belief to you in a kind of declarative knowledge form. I might be able to declare what my beliefs are, but my implicit beliefs, if my implicit beliefs are actually held, then my actions wouldn't correspond to that. Conversely, it might be that I believe something implicitly. I have this kind of tacit belief in something inside me, but I don't explicate that. Not because I'm lying, not because I'm denying something that I hold to be true inside myself or something that I believe inside myself, but just because that's the way that explicit knowledge works sometimes. It doesn't always correspond. So, for example, I don't believe in supernatural entities. I don't believe in ghosts or zombies or vampires or werewolves, any of that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that. And here you can hear me explicating that belief. It's an explicitly held belief, completely out there in the world. But you put me in a graveyard at night under the right weather conditions, and my body will behave in a way which is different to that. My senses, my intuitions, my tacit accommodation to that situation will seem to be one of which I do believe in those kind of things. I'll be a little bit scared, I'll be looking over my shoulder the whole time. I'll have my fingers crossed. You know, these kind of behaviours I'll be exhibiting, which is suggestive of a tacit belief in something like supernatural beings. I'll be filled with dread. And conversely, it might be that I declare belief in supernatural beings, a god of some kind, let's say, and I might, if someone asks me, I'll say, yes, I believe in that particular god, but my actions, my tacit behaviours, my implicit belief, in a sense, doesn't correspond to that at all, and I don't act as if as if that statement was one that I actually adhere to, that I believe in. Funny that, isn't it? That is this discontinuity between these kind of things. And again, it's not really about lying or suppressing a particular truth or being in denial or any of those kind of things. I don't think. It's simply that when we say belief, we don't necessarily mean the same thing. We might mean a declared belief, in which case, how we might, which box it might tick in a census form. Are you a Jedi? Are you an atheist? Are you a Christian? Are you a Muslim? An expressed, explicit belief. And then there's the other stuff that goes on at a much more visceral, intuitive level, which, as I say, doesn't necessarily correspond. Anyway, I'm actually down here in Cornwall, of course, that's where I live. But I'm looking for an old Celtic cross which is down here somewhere. But I can't find it. I've looked amongst these trees and stuff. It's supposed to be just off this path I'm on here. Can't find it. Anyhow, I believe it to be here, but clearly my belief is mistaken.